Imagine standing on a battlefield, thousands of warriors surrounding you, the clash of steel filling the air, and your heart pounding so hard you can hear it in your ears. In this moment of complete chaos, one wrong move, 1 second of distraction, one fleeting thought about fear or death could end everything. Yet the samurai moved through these moments with absolute clarity, making split-second decisions with perfect precision. Their secret wasn't superhuman ability or divine protection. It was something far more practical and far more powerful. A complete system of mental training that transformed their minds into unshakable instruments of focus. In feudal Japan, there lived a young warrior named Takeda who faced a problem that threatened to end his life before his career as a samurai had truly begun. During training exercises, his mind would scatter the moment pressure increased. When his instructor attacked, Takeda's thoughts would race to possible outcomes. What if I fail? What if I'm injured? What if I dishonor my family? His body would freeze, his reactions would slow, and his techniques would crumble. His master watched this pattern repeat itself day after day until finally, he called Takeda aside and said something that changed everything. Your enemy is not the man in front of you. Your enemy is the storm inside your own mind. Master that, and you will be unstoppable. This is the truth the samurai understood better than perhaps any warrior culture in history. Physical training could make you strong. Weapon mastery could make you skilled. But without mental mastery, all of that meant nothing when chaos erupted around you. Modern neuroscience now confirms what the samurai knew centuries ago. Under extreme stress, our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for clear thinking and decision-making, literally shuts down unless we've trained it specifically to stay functional. The samurai developed precise methods to ensure their minds remained crystal clear even when facing death itself. Let's begin with the foundation of everything, the practice the samurai called Zazen, or seated meditation. But this wasn't meditation as most people think of it today. This wasn't about relaxation or stress relief or finding your inner peace. This was combat training for the mind. Every morning before dawn, samurai warriors would sit in absolute stillness, back straight, eyes half open, watching their own thoughts the way a guard watches a dangerous prisoner. The practice sounds deceptively simple. Sit still, breathe naturally, and observe your mind without getting caught up in whatever thoughts arise. But anyone who's tried this knows the reality. Within seconds, your mind rebels. It throws up random memories, plans for later, worries about problems, fantasies, anxieties, anything to avoid the present moment. Here's what made samurai meditation different from other traditions. They weren't trying to stop thoughts or achieve some blissful empty mind. They were developing a specific skill, the ability to notice when attention had wandered and instantly return it to the present. Think of this like doing push-ups for your awareness. Each time your mind drifts and you bring it back, you've completed one repetition. Over months and years of daily practice, this creates an almost supernatural ability to maintain focus regardless of what's happening around you or inside you. But the samurai took this further. They understood that sitting meditation alone wasn't enough because battles don't happen while you're sitting peacefully. They needed to maintain that same quality of focused awareness while moving, while tired, while afraid, while in pain. This is where Kinhin, or walking meditation, became essential. After periods of seated practice, warriors would stand and walk in slow, deliberate circles around the meditation hall. Every step was performed with complete awareness. Feeling the foot lift, feeling it move through air, feeling it contact the ground, feeling the weight transfer. This trained the mind to maintain focus during movement, bridging the gap between stillness and action. The legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi wrote about this extensively. He explained that a warrior's mind must be like water. Water is perfectly calm when undisturbed, clearly reflecting everything around it. When ripples appear, water doesn't try to force itself to be calm. It simply allows the ripples to settle naturally. This is the quality of mind developed through meditation. Not forced concentration that requires enormous effort, but natural, effortless awareness that can be maintained for hours without exhaustion. Now we come to something that might surprise you. One of the most powerful focus training methods the samurai used had nothing to do with martial arts at all. It was the tea ceremony. Yes, you heard that correctly. Some of history's deadliest warriors spent hours practicing the precise, ritualized preparation and serving of tea. Why? Because the tea ceremony demanded the same quality of attention required in battle. Every movement had to be executed with complete precision. The angle of the wrist while pouring, the placement of the cup, the temperature of the water. A single distracted moment would ruin the ceremony and shame the practitioner. Through this practice, samurai learned something crucial. They learned that focus isn't about intensity. It's about complete presence in whatever you're doing. When you pour tea with absolute attention, you develop the same mental quality needed to track an opponent's sword. When you carefully arrange flowers or practice calligraphy, you're training the same awareness needed to maintain composure in chaos. This is why samurai culture valued what they called the way of culture and martial arts equally. They weren't separate pursuits. They were different expressions of the same fundamental skill, unwavering presence of mind. But let's be honest, meditation and tea ceremony sound peaceful and noble, but what about the actual terror of combat? What about the moment when you're face to face with someone trying to kill you, and your body floods with adrenaline and fear screams at you to run? The samurai had a specific practice for this too, and it might be the most psychologically sophisticated aspect of their training. It was called memento mori in the West, but the samurai called it daily death meditation. Every evening, warriors would sit and vividly imagine their own death in battle, not in a morbid way, but as a practical exercise in acceptance. They would visualize in precise detail the sword entering their body, the feeling of falling, the final moments of consciousness. By repeatedly experiencing their death in imagination, something profound happened. The fear of death lost its paralyzing power. Research in modern psychology confirms this principle. When we repeatedly expose ourselves to feared scenarios in our imagination, we build tolerance and reduce the panic response. Navy, SEALs, and other elite military forces now use similar visualization techniques for exactly this reason. By imagining the worst that could happen and experiencing it mentally over and over, you remove the element of shock and surprise that causes panic. The samurai understood another crucial element about focus that modern people often miss. Your mind cannot maintain intense concentration on one thing for extended periods. That's not how attention works. Instead, the samurai trained what they called Zanshin, or continuing mind. This means maintaining relaxed, open awareness that can instantly narrow to intense focus when needed, then expand again when the moment passes. Think of it like a camera lens. Sometimes you need to zoom in tight on one specific thing. Other times you need wide-angle awareness of everything around you. Amateurs try to maintain tight focus constantly and exhaust themselves. Masters smoothly shift between wide and narrow awareness as the situation demands. Here's where it gets really interesting. The samurai discovered that the biggest enemy of focus isn't external distraction, it's internal resistance. When you resist what's happening, your mind fragments. Part of you fights against reality while another part tries to deal with it. This inner conflict destroys focus instantly. The solution they found was radical acceptance of whatever situation they faced. Not passive resignation, but active acceptance that freed their minds to respond effectively. If an opponent was stronger, they accepted it and used strategy instead of meeting force with force. If they were injured, they accepted it and adapted their technique. If death was certain, they accepted it and fought with complete freedom because they had nothing left to protect. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood concepts in samurai philosophy, Mushin, or no mind. Western people often think this means being mindless or not thinking. Actually, it means the opposite. Mushin is the state where your mind is so completely present, so fully merged with action, that there's no separation between thinking and doing. Your training responds automatically while your awareness remains crystal clear. You've probably experienced this yourself in moments of complete absorption, playing music, playing sports, engaged in intense conversation. Time seems to disappear. Self-consciousness vanishes. You're simply there, fully present, acting without the internal commentary that usually runs constantly. The samurai developed specific methods to cultivate this state deliberately rather than waiting for it to happen randomly. One key method was kata practice. Kata are preset sequences of movements practiced thousands of times until they become completely automatic. This serves two purposes. First, it builds what neuroscientists call procedural memory, where your body knows what to do without conscious thought. Second, and this is crucial, it trains your mind to stay present while your body acts automatically. During kata practice, warriors were taught to maintain full awareness of their surroundings and internal state, while their techniques flowed without deliberate thought. This is the essence of Mushin in action. Let's talk about breath, because this might be the most immediately practical technique the samurai used. Under stress, human breathing naturally becomes rapid and shallow. This triggers more stress response, creating a vicious cycle. The samurai learned to break this cycle through what they called Hara breathing, or breathing from the center. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Most people, when stressed, breathe high in the chest. This actually signals danger to your nervous system. The samurai trained to breathe deep into the lower belly, even during intense activity. This engages your parasympathetic nervous system, the system that promotes calm and clear thinking. They used a specific pattern. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 6 counts, hold empty for 2. The longer exhale is key. It activates your relaxation response even while you're in the middle of chaos. Modern military forces now teach similar breathing techniques because research confirms they dramatically improve performance under pressure. Navy SEALs call it tactical breathing. The samurai called it the breath of life. Same principle, proven effective across centuries and cultures. Now here's something that completely changes how we think about focus. The samurai didn't just train during formal practice sessions. They trained every single moment of every day through a principle they called Ichigo Ichie, one time, one meeting. This means treating every moment, every action, every encounter as unique and unrepeatable. When you walk completely. When you eat completely. When you speak with someone, you speak completely. This wasn't philosophical poetry. This was practical focus training woven into every aspect of daily life. Think about how different this is from modern life where we're constantly divided. Eating while watching screens, walking while texting, talking while thinking about what we'll say next. This habitual divided attention is the opposite of samurai training. Every moment of scattered attention weakens your ability to focus when it truly matters. Every moment of complete presence strengthens it. The samurai understood that you cannot suddenly become focused in battle if you spend the rest of your life in distraction. Your mind simply doesn't work that way. Let's address the elephant in the room. What about when you fail to maintain focus? What about when your mind does scatter, when fear does arise, when distraction does pull you away? The samurai had a specific teaching for this. They called it Shoshin, beginner's mind. This means approaching every moment fresh, without the burden of past failures or the anxiety of future outcomes. When your mind wanders during meditation, you don't judge yourself or feel guilty. You simply notice it and return to the present. When you make a mistake in training, you don't carry it into the next moment. You acknowledge it, learn from it, and release it. This might be the most psychologically sophisticated aspect of samurai mental training. Most people, when they lose focus, pile a second problem on top of the first. They lose focus, then they get frustrated about losing focus. Then they get frustrated about being frustrated, creating layers of mental noise that make regaining focus nearly impossible. The samurai cut through this instantly with beginner's mind. Lost focus? That's information. Return to the present. Made a mistake? That's feedback. Adjust and continue. This removes the emotional burden that transforms small lapses into major failures. The samurai also understood the critical importance of what modern psychology calls pre-performance routines. Before any important action, they performed specific rituals that signaled to their minds it was time to enter peak focus state. Some would perform a specific breathing pattern. Others would touch their sword in a particular way. Some would recite a brief phrase or poem. These weren't superstitions. They were psychological anchors that triggered the focus state they'd spent years cultivating. You can see this same principle used by modern athletes. A basketball player's free throw routine, a baseball pitcher's wind-up. These rituals serve the same function as samurai pre-battle meditation. They create a consistent bridge between normal consciousness and peak performance state. The specific ritual matters far less than the consistency of doing it every single time. Here's what ties all of these practices together into one coherent system. The samurai understood that focus isn't about trying harder or forcing your mind to concentrate. It's about removing the obstacles that prevent your natural clarity from functioning. Your mind, in its natural state, is already capable of extraordinary focus. You've proven this whenever you've been completely absorbed in something you care about. The problem isn't that you lack focus ability. The problem is that you've developed habits of distraction that interfere with your natural capacity. Every samurai practice we've discussed, meditation to develop awareness of when your mind wanders, kata to build automatic responses, death meditation to remove fear's paralyzing power, breathing techniques to maintain physiological calm, beginner's mind to prevent past failures from contaminating present action. These aren't adding something new to your mind. They're removing the interference patterns that prevent your mind from functioning at its highest level. Think of it this way. Imagine a lake on a completely calm day. The water is so still and clear you can see every detail of the bottom. That's your mind's natural state. Now imagine throwing in stones, stirring up mud, creating waves. That's what distraction, fear, self-judgment, and divided attention do to your mind. Samurai training doesn't create the clarity. It stops you from throwing in stones. It lets the mud settle. It allows the natural stillness to emerge. The young warrior Takeda we met at the beginning of this story spent the next 3 years following his master's guidance. Every morning before dawn, Zazen. Every day, complete presence in every action. Every evening, death meditation. His progress wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden transformation or mystical breakthrough. Instead, something far more powerful happened. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the storm in his mind began to quiet. Not because he'd learned to force it down, but because he'd stopped feeding it with constant distraction and resistance. Years later, Takeda faced his first real battle. As he stood with his fellow warriors waiting for the attack, he noticed something extraordinary. While others around him showed visible signs of panic, their breathing rapid, their movements jerky, their eyes darting, he felt completely present. His breath was steady, his awareness was clear. He could see everything around him with perfect clarity. When the fighting began, his body moved with precision while his mind watched with calm awareness. This wasn't because he felt no fear. He felt everything. He simply wasn't controlled by what he felt. After the battle, a younger warrior asked Takeda how he'd remained so calm. Takeda smiled, remembering his master's words from years before. "I didn't fight the storm," he said. "I became the eye of the storm. The chaos still raged around me, but at my center was absolute stillness. That's what our training creates. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of clarity within difficulty. This is the ultimate lesson of samurai mental training. Focus isn't about eliminating distraction from your environment. That's impossible. Focus is about developing a mind that can maintain clarity regardless of what's happening around it or within it. It's about building such strong awareness that external chaos and internal emotion can't knock you off balance. This capability isn't mysterious or superhuman. It's the natural result of specific, consistent practices performed over time with dedication and sincerity. The question isn't whether these methods work. They've proven themselves effective across centuries and cultures, from feudal Japanese battlefields to modern military training programs. The question is whether you'll apply them. Will you do the boring, repetitive, unglamorous work of sitting in meditation every day? Will you bring complete presence to ordinary actions rather than constantly operating in distraction? Will you face your fears in imagination rather than avoiding them? Will you practice returning to the present moment 10,000 times until it becomes second nature? The samurai had a saying that captures this perfectly. The sword that stays in its sheath because it waits for perfect conditions never serves its purpose. Your mind is that sword. All the potential in the world means nothing if you don't commit to the training that transforms potential into reality. The battlefield might not be literal anymore, but the need for unshakable focus remains. Whether you face high-stakes decisions, competitive challenges, creative work, or simply the daily chaos of modern life, the principles are identical. Train your mind with the same dedication a samurai trained their sword, and discover what becomes possible when your awareness is finally under your control rather than controlling you. The path is before you, the methods are proven, the choice is yours. Will you master the storm in your own mind? Thank you for watching.